welcome to the Bod and Mum podcast. This is with me, Elaine and Davy. Davy's the bod, I'm the mum.
Hey,
Today we have a special guest on with us, Shane Walsh. Shane Walsh is going to talk about an amazing topic that us females are going to find very interesting. And so I'm going to introduce you here to Shane. So Shane, do you want to introduce yourself to our lovely viewers?
Yep, no worries. Thank you so much for having me on, first of all. So my name is Shane Walsh. I am the owner of Shane Walsh Fitness. So I've been in the industry for about just under 5.5 years at this stage. So before I made the change into kind of like going into nutrition and fitness, I used to have a real job. I used to work in sales and recruitment, if you can call that a real job, for probably about 6 years. And then in 2017, my world just flipped. So, and I started a new job in April in 2017 on the Monday. And then on the Saturday, I was admitted to hospital. So on the Saturday morning, I woke up with a very, very swollen arm. The left-hand side was very, very swollen, like probably about 6 or 7 times what it should be. So I have no idea. Have I slept on it wrong? I didn't know what was going on. So I rang my parents, and kind of, as you do, you ring your mommy.
Yeah.
And kind of she was exactly, yeah. And then you ring your dad and you're kind of like, okay, dad was kind of like, oh, just it'll be grand, we'll sort itself out. But I was kind of like, it wasn't sorting itself out. So I ended up ringing one of my mates' husband, and he's a doctor. So he was like, well, you need to go to A&E. I think I can't tell you what's happening, but I can guess. So I went into hospital, sat in a trolley for 15 hours maybe. My poor mother. I drove myself into hospital. Not the greatest idea I've ever had. Drove myself into hospital. I was on trolley for about 15 hours, and specialist after specialist couldn't figure out what was going on. So it turned out that I had a kind of a blockage in my arm. So I had kind of like DVT. So I kind of like deep vein thrombosis in my arm. So there was a blockage. So there was a blocked artery up here.
Oh,
they couldn't find this one until I straightened out my arm. So they actually got like what they put on to pregnant women to try and find it.
Yeah.
And then the last thing the doctor did, she's like, put your arm out straight. And when I put my arm out straight like this, she found the blockage. And then there was another one at the top of the forearm. And so I had to stay in hospital for a week, got the veins opened up, fluid, like they put dye into your veins to find it. So I was awake for that. That was cool. And then I was in hospital for a week, and then 2 weeks later I went back into work because it was a brand new job. And if in recruitment, if you don't pay for your desk, if you don't pay for your seat, you're useless to them. So I went back in.
Yeah, I know that one. I did recruitment for 6 months. Thought I was going to make it big.
No, it's a tough job. I respect anyone that does it, but it's a tough job. And then went back in within half an hour. I collapsed on my desk with fluid on my lungs. So I had to go to hospital again. So after that, I was kind of like, my body's trying to tell me something. I didn't know what was going on. I was depressed. I was having a nervous breakdown at the age of 29. My body was just really, really unhappy. So I had to take a career break. I wasn't allowed to work for probably about 9 months. And fell into a really, really dark place, and had got to the point of I had ended up buying sleeping tablets online to finish myself. So I bought them, and I'd say I'd bought them on maybe the Sunday, and they hadn't arrived yet. And I'd never listened to a podcast in my whole life.
Yeah.
And I listened to this one. I don't know what tangent I'd gone on, but I found one. I was like, stop caring what other people think.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit. So I rang my dad and I was like, I actually need to go get help. And he was like, we've been trying to, we've known you need to get help for a while, but you needed to make the change yourself. So I literally went to the GP, and she put me on medication. The medication didn't agree with me because
What medication were you on? Do you mind me asking?
I can't even remember it. So I just kind of blocked that bit out of my life. So I look at this, and that's orange. And that looked grey to me when I was on the tablets. And I sounded drunk all the time. I couldn't think. I was really slow. Libido had gone to shit. So I was kind of like really, really, really bad place. And I remember taking a photo with my dad on Father's Day, 6 weeks after I got out of hospital. And I'd lost about 10 kilos in about 6 weeks. And I showed dad the photo there about last Father's Day. And he goes, do you remember this? And he goes, who's that in the photo with me? And I was like, that's me.
Oh my goodness. That's
so like he doesn't even recognize me. So yeah, I was lucky enough. I remember at that time, one of my mates was doing up a house, and he kept ringing me to kind of come and help paint the house just to get me out. I'll never forget that, because that was me. I got, when you're feeling low, you don't want to talk to anyone.
Yeah.
So I was probably a shit crack to be around. But he was kind of trying to get me out, and then he was getting the other lads to come around. Like my mates were amazing, my parents were amazing at the time as well. So I ended up going traveling. And when I was doing traveling, I kind of got into like Joe Wicks before I left.
Yeah.
And I started doing classes while I was like, I started doing workouts each morning while I was away. And other people we were traveling with started joining in. I was kind of like,
Brilliant.
there must be something to do with this. I enjoy this part. So on my flight home from Vietnam in the airport from Hanoi, I booked my PT course.
Brilliant.
And then there we are, like 3 months later or whatever it is, with going into the gym as a PT, and here we are now 5.5 years later.
Fantastic.
Helping others out.
Yeah.
It's like Vietnam. I loved it.
Yeah, Vietnam, like the food, like Hue and Hoi An were the kind of two favorite parts. We went out into the country first. We couldn't do the mines because we weren't going from Cambodia, but we bought a.
They're really, really small, by the way.
Yeah, so
I'm somewhat claustrophobic, and I was freaking out.
Really?
Oh my god, they're
meant to be really, really
yeah,
the people are quite small, but we couldn't get in because we had bought an air visa and we'd gone by land.
Yes.
Got to the border control. They're like, you can pay us €150 if you want as a bribe each, and we were like, no. So we went back to Cambodia 3 hours back and booked our flights on the way on the thing, and got a flight back in because we were meeting.
Because I did the train from Thailand into Cambodia. The bottom.
Yeah, but it might be a little bit different from.
Or did I fly into? Oh, I can't rember.
We had the wrong visa. We didn't even realize we had the wrong visa. It was kind of like we just assumed that you just get to where you go. So yeah, that's my and then I kind of, when I was doing PT face to face, I used to teach classes. And what was happening was there was a lot of people kind of asking me like, why am I feeling hungry at this stage? Why am I feeling weaker at this stage? And majority of people that do classes are people with menstrual cycles and are females and stuff. So it's kind of like, there must be something into this. So I went off and nerded out and was like, there's something into this. And then
I love that. I love that he went off and nerded out. Like most men were like going, ooh, period.
Yeah. So I probably was that way in my 20s. I'm not going to lie. It's kind of like the thing in Anchorman, like the bear, they smell the menstruation. Just that element. Which is like a lot of people think, but then I kind of like, right, there's something into this. And as soon as I started talking about it a little bit more, I started getting a little bit of traction, and then was fully booked pretty quickly face to face. And then 10 weeks before COVID hit us, I left face to face PT fully online.
Right. So you got in at the right time, so to speak.
Yeah, like I was kind of doing online and face to face at the same time. But I was at a stage where I was like, right, if say 50% of my face-to-face came with me online, I'd be able to survive for at least like 6 months with them. So I was like, right, I think 90% came with me. So I was happy out. So and then COVID hit and everyone was going nuts with fitness, or else they were going the other extreme. So yeah, things have gone strength to strength. There's been dips, there's highs, you know what it's like, self-employed.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it. But you get that every time, so you know, you get your highs, you get your lows, and you get your in-betweens.
Yeah.
Hats off to you, what you're doing. It's amazing.
It's amazing. Like you look back 5.5 years ago, you probably wouldn't even have thought you'd be where you are now.
No, no, it definitely didn't. And I think sometimes it takes that little bit of. I remember I met someone that I hadn't seen since school there, probably like the 2 days before I went on holidays, and they were like, "What? I don't know how you're doing. I just don't know what you're doing, but fair play to you." And this lad has played for the British and Irish Lions and played for Ireland, and he was like, fair fucks to you. So it's kind of nice he had to retire really early as from rugby. So he was kind of like, fair fucks to you, because I was in class with him and stuff in school. I was so bored in school. I got tested for ADHD and everything in school. I was like, with the person who tested me, I was like, he knows what he wants to do, or he's just not interested in anything you're teaching him.
Yeah, I think not that I'm going off a massive tangent, but I do think a lot of labels are fired around these days, and people just find their own groove. Like I look at my kids and I'm thinking, are they naturally gifted for this or that? My 4-year-old's smart,
yeah,
but I have no idea what she's going to get into because she's got range of things. So I'm just gonna let her find it out for
That's
herself.
I've noticed loads of people push their kids into what they want the kids to do, rather than let the kids choose themselves. And then, sure, by the time they hit 18 or 16, they're rebelling against their parents. I didn't want to do that there. You're the one who pushed me.
I
Let
can
them go
relate to
find their
that.
own
Like,
path.
Yeah.
yeah, because I think if your parents are of a certain age, they've been in a career for a very, very long time, and that they've probably been in the same business for a very, very long time. So it's kind of like it's an old school thing. But I
True.
always knew that I wanted to be self-employed, but I didn't know what area, and I kind of fell into this. And I would never have said in college, or never have said in school when you have those
Yeah.
career kind of counselors, that would be nutrition or it'd be training or whatever it may be. It was always like, oh, sales or marketing or self-employed were the three things that came up, but it was never, it was trying to figure out kind of what you wanted to do. So I accidentally fell into it, but haven't looked back since. It's no, I enjoy it. It's great because every single person I work with is so different,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
keeps you on your toes. Don't get me wrong, there's times where you feel like strangling people.
Uh,
But
See, you're down to earth. People can relate to yourself. You're an inspiration to like myself and Elaine and everybody all out there. And I think that's what's it's good to see. People like yourself helping others out and all, and just being down to earth and keep doing what you're doing.
thank you. Means a lot. Thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
So Shane, we've talked a little bit about your background, and there's some revelations there that I wasn't even aware of. And I do quite a bit of stalking. I'm known as the stalking of the day. But the reason I came across you on a different podcast, and I'm quite happy to name him Sean Casey, and I was like, there's a dude talking about menstrual cycle. This is interesting. And so I listened to it, and I was like, man, I didn't know half the stuff that was going on in my body. I've learned a lot of stuff recently, but up until I was like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's what drew me to you, and then listening to some of your podcasts. And it's like, right, I'm going to reach out to this guy and see if he wants to come on the podcast. Because as a female, I can share my own knowledge, but it's always better coming from a third party who's not going through all of that stuff, so they can come at it, one, clinically, objectively, but also from a place of, I'm actually looking at this and understanding it. So I'm going to give you direct guidance or advice. And I thought it was brilliant that it was coming from a male. I thought it was great. I love when fellas talk about kind of stuff.
I
Makes us feel not so alone. Makes us feel like somebody might actually want to understand what's going on inside our heads and our bodies. So tell me, you said that you fell into the clients and stuff coming to classes. So, and you nerded up. Where did you start?
Yeah, so I was lucky enough though, I think, because I had a little bit more life experience, I would say, than most people that go into PT.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, I want to learn everything really quickly. And I was like, well, I'm going to learn off and kind of mimic or kind of shadow the more experienced PTs that I was working with. So I remember talking to them, and they're kind of like, do MNU and then download or get access to Lift the Bar. So Lift the Bar is about 30 quid a month, 30 pounds a month, I think it is. And it's a portal for education, and it's amazing from everything from how to grow your business to learning about nutrition, periodization, training, everything.
Wow.
All the way up to menstrual cycles. And I remember clicking on menstrual cycles on it, and it was like a 3-hour lecture. And it was like a beautiful mind drawn all over the walls and everything, trying to take all the notes and trying to take it all in. And then I kind of fell down a rabbit hole of kind of listening to the likes of Amelia Thompson, the likes of Martin McDonald, the likes of Lift the Bar. They have a podcast as well. And I fell into that kind of rabbit hole of, once I get my head into something, like, I go that way.
Yeah.
So I fell into that. And then I did MNU after that. And there was that element of it as well. And then I was finding there was more questions kind of coming from clients about PCOS, endometriosis. I did a pre and postnatal course as well. So, and then perimenopause and menopause is kind of coming into it as well. So I've a lot of it's kind of come from courses, and a lot of it's kind of come from self-education.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of having that kind of those people around me that I can kind of bounce off ideas and say, right, if I'm not sure of something, I'm not afraid to ask someone else that might be in the know. Like, I have people who will go to for different areas like PCOS or whatever. But I've also learned an awful lot from having people onto the podcast as well, about different areas, and and then I read I used to read, as like I've kind of eased off a little bit this year. But the books that I've read would be that, like Lara Bryden, you've got Macy Hill, you've got Stacey Sims, you've got so many people that you can kind of get information of that's actually applicable, and it's in language that's applicable to clients. It's not just a big load of jargon and a load of big words. So yeah, just basically courses and self-taught and actually mimicking or learning off people that have walked the walk before you.
Brilliant. And what like, so when you have a client that comes up to you, or somebody in the gym and you're taking classes back in the day, and they said, look, why am I feeling this way? Like, can you describe to our viewers the menstrual cycle?
Okay, so will I go through the menstrual cycle first, then go into everything else?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Might as well start off with a tough one.
Okay.
Just throw you right in there.
Yeah, we'll jump straight in. So the one thing that I would say about the menstrual cycle is it's completely different for every single person that has one. There isn't one client that I have had that is the same as anyone else. It's your unique kind of thing about you, because there'll be times where you get cravings. There'll be times where you've low energy. There'll be times you've lower mood. There'll be times your libido is through the roof. And there'll be times where you are strong as hell. And there'll be times as you may need to ease off on your training as well. And it does have that much of an impact, because if you look at the likes of, say, the Irish women's football team who have made the World Cup, and then you've got the likes of Chelsea women's football team at the minute, those two teams are leading the charge with the menstrual cycle research. The reason why Emma Hayes has won, like, I think it's like 2 or 3 Champions Leagues, 4 out of the last 6 leagues, is because she's been an early adapter of the menstrual cycle stuff. She's known when her team are at their different stages. They can work out what match load they can work on, but also they can look at when their legs are certain injuries that may happen. You may notice now that there's a lot more ACL injuries for female athletes, because second half of the cycle your ligaments aren't as strong, so you might not be able to. So it's happening an awful lot. So like the England captain, I think Leah Williamson, is injured. Beth Mead has just missed out in the World Cup, but she was the best player in the Euros. And I think there's a few Arsenal Chelsea players as well that are kind of missing out on it. So it's definitely a massive thing. And I think Dane Asher-Smith, the Great Britain sprinter, she mentioned that she did an interview on BBC afterwards of one of her races, and she was like, I didn't perform today because I'm on my menstrual cycle. So like they're openly talking.
I would like to see the men in the room going, "Ooh, did she do
exactly.
that?"
Exactly, yeah. So it does have a massive impact on people, and because the research and training and nutrition has been done so much on men, all the research is men. We've lived in a patriarchal society for a very, very long time, and now it's only the last 10-15 years, if not less, where kind of like the female world, the health world around menstrual cycle health and that kind of thing is changing. So the biggest thing that Stacey Sims says is women are not small men.
Nope.
So you need to understand that is the case, and you are completely different to how a man might operate, and that should be celebrated and should be understood. Yeah. So the best method I would look at for people is track your cycle. Apps like Clue, Kandara, and there's Natural Cycles as well, which is Natural Cycles is actually a thermometer that you insert, and you'll be able to see when you were ovulating. Yeah. So they're really helpful. But to understand the main stages of the cycle, there's 4 main stages. There's the menstrual phase, there's the follicular phase, there's the ovulation phase, and then there's the luteal phase as well. So if we look at it and break it down, the first stage is the menstrual phase, which is the beginning of your period. That's when you get your period. So day 1 is day 1 of your cycle. And that's when that comes from an egg when it hasn't been fertilized, when the previous egg hasn't been fertilized. So if you're pregnant, you won't have the menstrual cycle. Okay. So that's when the levels of the hormones of estrogen, which is your Beyonce hormone, which makes you sassy. That's not my words. That's Macy Hill's. And then you've got your progesterone, which is your calming hormone. So if you think of it like from day 1 of your cycle, your estrogen rises up to about day 14. So the middle of your cycle. So normally the example is about 28-day cycle. Day 14, your estrogen should be at its peak. Okay. And then it drops back down. So you'll find that you're a little bit kind of like hornier, a little bit libido is, you want to go at it like a rabbit, basically.
Yeah.
And that's why it's created for that, so that you can ovulate. Because if you have sex outside your fertile window, it's like having sex with a door. You're not going to get pregnant. So rises up to day 14, and then it starts to drop back down. And about 7 days later, your progesterone should start to rise up. And that's your calming hormone. That's when your mood starts to calm you down a little bit. It's your yin to your yang. So everything has different phases to it. So when at your menstrual phase, you might have cramps, tender breasts, mood swings, irritability, headaches, back pain, tiredness. It's tougher for some people than others. Some may not have as tough as others, but this phase generally lasts for about 3 to 7 days. And some have longer, some have less. And then there's the follicular phase, which is kind of, there's a little bit of overlap between the two. And this kind of lasts for probably, this ends when you ovulate. Think of it this way: your follicular phase, which is the beginning phase, is when you're that increasing estrogen side of things. And this can generally last for about 16 days. So generally from 11 to 27, I think is what the stats say. And this can be where you're kind of heading towards your ovulation, which is kind of like the crescendo of your cycle, where you're kind of looking to get pregnant, where you're kind of getting that element of it. And then you've kind of got the ovulation phase, where you might start to find that your basal temperature goes up by about 0.3 degrees, 0.4 degrees Celsius. You'll have you might start to notice there's a thick eggy discharge in your pants as well, which is completely normal, and it happens around day 14 or in the middle of your cycle. So if you have 28-day cycle, it's bang on in the middle. It could be earlier, it could be later. If you're normally at a day 14, or you know exactly when it's happening, and if it's happening earlier or later, it means your body feels that it's not safe. And I mean, if your cycle is later, it means if your body it doesn't feel safe. So if you want to get pregnant, you need to learn when you are ovulating, because having sex outside it doesn't really help. And then there's the luteal phase, which is kind of like heading in towards that stage before your menstrual cycle, where you might hear these terms like PMS, where your mood might go low, headaches, might feel a little bit more water weight, a little bit more weight gain around that time. And you might have those cravings that you might feel as well. So generally at this stage, your metabolism is actually sped up. So normally you think of it like a car. I think it's the best analogy I can come up with on the spot. Is normally your body's kind of going at 80 kilometers an hour, and it's working at that. And then at luteal phase, your body's going at 120 kilometers an hour, but it's trying to survive on the same food and same fuel. That doesn't happen. You know, when you're driving too fast, your fuel gauge goes down pretty quickly. That's essentially what's happening. So to manage this, you probably need to increase your calories. So I would normally recommend 300 to 500 calories around that time. So say if someone's having 18,000 calories or to 2,000 calories a day, they could be better off having 21 to 25 or 21 to 2,300 calories a day, to kind of like give them that little bit more of adherence, to give that little bit more fuel, to kind of have that, to work on their appetite. Because if you're craving something, it means your body's looking for food. And when we get that little bit more tired as humans, our brain kicks in and goes, let's get the quickest source of energy into our body right now. So what do we go for? Sugar, carbs, fatty foods, processed food.
Yeah.
So it's not that you're craving carbs. Your body's actually looking for energy. So going for whole grain carbohydrates, regular meals, protein, veggies, those kind of things will really, really help you to manage those cravings. And increasing those calories. You'll find that every single person completely different how they manage their training. Generally, the old research is saying kind of like the first half of the cycle is when you push your training. Second half of the cycle is when you ease off your training, because your ligaments and stuff might not be as strong at that time. But what I have found is if you track your cycle, you'll be able to spot this a lot more. So I've had clients who are strong as hell at ovulation and strong at hell at the last week, but then they're weaker at the beginning. So it's finding out where your sweet point is. And some women might not, or people with menstrual cycles might not have any of these kind of like extreme waves, and they may be able to just push through their training as normal and go for it hell for leather all the time. But it's few and far between on when that happens. But if you feel up for your session and you're enjoying it, go for it. Don't just say, right, I'm on this stage of my cycle, so I must reduce my training. See how you feel. Go by how you feel. The sessions that I'd recommend is, say, if you're doing your weight training and you're saying doing 100 kg squat for whatever many reps, maybe reduce it by about 60 or 70% on the weeks that you're feeling lower. Probably don't do HIIT sessions. It's too much on the body. Maybe ease off on the running. I had that conversation with one of my clients yesterday. She was like, I don't know what's wrong with me. And I was kind of like, it's where I was like, I looked at your sheet. You're probably on week 4 of your cycle. And she goes, this actually makes so much more sense. I was like, let's just take a couple of days off away from the running and just kind of focus on the walk and getting yourself fueled back up. And she messaged me this morning saying, I never knew any of this. And it's kind of like, this
that's
is
really helpful. Like, even though 1, I'm a female, 2, I'm a PT, 3, I'm learning about this. I honestly don't track. I kind of gauge, right, that's the date my period's coming. Usually comes in around the same date every month. Don't really, for myself, track, and I just hammer on through workouts. But there is weeks, like this week and next week, I know I'm going to be feeling like I need to do the workout and I'll get through it.
Yeah.
But my goodness, I will feel like crap after it. I'll feel like I'll be buzzing because I'm in my happy place. But as soon as I come down from that little rush of endorphins, I'd be like, nope, I'm quite sore.
Yeah, and like recovery can be a little bit kind of like can be a bit more of a struggle. You might get that DOMS, that sore feeling as well.
Yeah.
That's important to kind of reduce your sessions. And if someone is working with a coach and they're not doing that for them, I would ask the coach why they're not doing it. And if they have that knowledge gap, I'd kind of be like, well, I would encourage them to get that knowledge for them, because it's important to understand what's actually going on. If someone's on the pill, it's a little bit different. You're not going to have those natural spikes. You're not going to get that estrogen progesterone spikes because the pill is generally synthetic man-made hormones.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like it's estradiol and it's progestin. So it's not going to be your natural hormone. So you may not have that highs and lows that you'd have if you were off the pill. And the pill is pro-choice. So it's important to realize that, but you may not have those natural spikes, or you may not you'll be able to gauge it yourself of when you do have that. And if you're having a withdrawal bleed, because that's all it is, it's not a real bleed, you'll be able to notice yourself, right? Is it a couple of days before that withdrawal bleed happens that you might feel a little bit more tired? So it's gauging yourself. It's going to be very different with someone who's on the pill and who's off the pill.
Do you find that with women that you've dealt with and where they are in the cycle, it's completely related to the cycle, or is there any external factors? That's me throwing you a tangent there. So for me, I'm like going, is it my period, or is it the fact that my kids kept me up all last night and they're driving me nuts?
Yeah, so lifestyle can definitely have an impact on things in general. So sometimes if you're completely and utterly stressed with work or you're not sleeping, that can be one thing. So I would always get clients to kind of check in themselves each week and kind of like, rate your score on sleep, rate your score on stress, rate your score on nutrition and training adherence. And you'll notice quite quickly that if the sleep's gone down, stress has gone up, well-being has gone down, training and nutrition adherence have gone down. So it's checking in, right? What stage are you at? How's life stress is going on at the minute? And you'll be able to spot it quite quickly if you're actually that way inclined and trying to check it in yourself. Like, right, what do I need to do today? Can I train as hard as I want to, or do I need to kind of ease myself into it? It's trying to figure out what's actually going on, because a lot of things that people are kind of, especially if you're a parent, like I'm not a parent, so well, I don't think so. Don't think so. So
you're starting to think about that one.
Yeah, it's kind of like, did this happen? Yeah. So I know my mates have, like, I know I've got a 3-year-old godson. And when I look after him, I'm just like, I just need a nap. So it's like,
awesome.
if you have young kids, that can be a massive impact on it. It's kind of like sometimes you just need that little bit of accountability. And I think just doing something, even if it's a walk, is just better than doing nothing. Like I haven't trained this week at all because I literally cannot see properly with hay fever. And I'm literally
hay fever's ridiculous.
It's so bad at the minute. I'm literally come back from being on holidays. I'm like, right, today is probably the day that I'm like literally going for my walks every day. I'm gonna go for a run with one of the lads later on, and that's gonna be the first bit of training I'll be doing, because I've my season is over playing football or soccer. So my training kind of reduced a little bit. So I'm kind of like enjoying a kind of couple of weeks, just getting my body back in, and we're back to pre-season probably now in about 3 or 4 weeks. So I'll start to kind of get back into the gym on Friday.
Actually, pre-season, just another tangent. It's brutal. It is absolutely brutal.
It's horrible. Like, you see different shades of green.
It's brutal pre-season. I don't know why they push us so hard at the start of in the summertime.
I think it's because maybe they think because you're off, you haven't been doing nothing, and then when you
Well,
come
most
back,
lads won't. Like we've got our
yeah.
team night out, our team awards from last season on Saturday, and I can guarantee the lads have been doing feck all.
Oh,
Um,
I.
so we didn't have a proper preseason last year, and it definitely took us until Christmas to like I was doing
Recover.
my own stuff in the background, but I know a lot of the lads weren't, and I would be one of the older ones. I'm thinking third oldest on the team,
Yeah.
and the three oldest lads are the fittest.
I
They
see.
know,
I would,
they know.
yeah, that would be my thinking. I'm not resting. If I rest, it's going to be starting from square one, where sort of you do, like you say, go for a run or a walk or something like. Just keep yourself active. So when it comes
Just
time
to
for
do
that
something.
season to kick off again,
Yeah, like I've got severe asthma as well. So like
Jeez, you're not having a good time, are you?
no, not really. I don't want to. I was just, I'm more, yeah, just one of those X Factor stories. Um, yeah. So asthma is it kind of, I need to kind of make sure that I'm able to run because I know 70 minutes. I'll go over 70 minutes. I'll be like, get the manager to go give me the inhaler. So it's kind of like, yeah, with the inhaler, with the asthma, I need to make sure I'm able to keep some. I'm not naturally fit. I'll put
Right.
it that way. I know, like if I look at my brother would be and have a bigger engine on him.
Mhm.
But I'd have to try that a little bit harder and work that a little bit harder to try and get my fitness levels to a level that are adequate for what I think.
Have you found that with your asthma? Because I was a sufferer of asthma. Like the saying is, you grow out of it. I only have really bad asthma if I've got severe cold weather and I've got like a flu on my chest. But like, do you find out having done the training and been active that it's helped with you to build up,
Strengthen your lungs.
strengthen your lungs and stuff?
So I only got diagnosed with asthma about 18 months ago.
Really?
Wow.
So like because I got tested previously and they thought it was just exercise induced asthma and I never thought of it.
Mm.
When I was like probably about 17. No, be younger, about 17. And I was kind of like, so at 17, I was using it as a bit of an excuse. I'm not gonna lie. And then I just didn't take it ever. And then kind of 2021, I went back into the doc. I literally couldn't breathe. I thought it was COVID. I have never had COVID. And they were
You're
like, no,
lucky.
you're severely asthmatic. I was like, she did the breathalyzer test or the breath test. And she's like, yeah, you've got lungs of like a 80-year-old smoker. I was like,
Holy
oh,
smokes.
this is great. She's like, you see, because on the breathalyzer test, you have the tube and you kind of
Yeah.
like, you move the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not that
Uh,
easy to do.
no, I didn't do too well on it. So, yeah, I find that I have to manage it now and I have to almost make that a little bit more of a concerted effort to bring in some sort of cardiovascular fitness into things. Beforehand, cardio would have been second fiddle, but and just do weights. But now it's kind of like I actually prefer the cardio. I never thought I'd say that.
Oh.
I hate it. Hate it.
Yeah, so I used to be like that when I first started lifting weights. I was like weights, because I
Yeah.
stopped playing football. But now I'm kind of like I actually prefer the cardio. So like if you look at my body composition at the beginning of the season,
Yeah.
Mhm.
now it's completely different because my girlfriend showed me photos the holiday yesterday, and I was actually surprised how much the body composition is completely changed. I actually prefer this way because I feel less pressure
Yeah.
to look a certain way. If you
Yeah,
go
I
into the
totally
gym, it can be a little
understand
bit
and
more
agree there.
aesthetic.
Yeah.
And now and I've changed my goal now and kind of like my 30s. It's kind of like I just want to be able to fucking run and be able
Yeah.
to perform. So like obviously the weights have its purpose, but it feels a lot less pressure having to look a certain way. Obviously, I love when the clothes are fit and then you've got
Mhm.
the disco muscles. But yeah, so the disco muscles are great, but I'm at this stage now, like I'm just gonna do it for functionality, make sure the glutes, the hamstrings, the back, the core are kind of working. So I can
Yeah.
actually like to be 35 and still playing football. I gave up for 10 years. So this is my first season back in 10 years and I didn't get injured.
Right.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so I was surprised that.
35, not many people would walk away with no injuries or nothing.
Yeah.
Wouldn't even be playing by now. Well, you're going on proving a point. Yeah, well,
Yeah,
so
so
age is just a
yeah,
number.
yeah, exactly. Like don't get me wrong, I had the odd little niggle, but definitely I have a great physio that kind of sorted out one or
Yeah.
two things, but literally no issues. And we were playing towards the end of the season, we were playing 3 matches a week for 4 weeks, playing 90 minutes
Woo.
each one of those. I was like, I'm about to die.
Well, I can attest that, like Davey says, age is just a number. I don't play competitive sport anymore. I give up at 36. I'm 40. But my husband still plays rugby. He's 43 and he is not for giving it up. And my mum's 69 coming and she's still playing hockey. In fact, she played
69,
for
that's amazing.
the Irish over 60s team in
Wow, that's
England
amazing.
last year.
That's amazing.
Isn't it? So it's just my thing. But we're deviating again because we always say this. In terms of, we've mentioned it about tracking. Like you've mentioned a couple apps there. Why is it important? Like, I just want you to go a bit more into that there. What do you use? What can you use? And should it become a way of life?
I would say it's important at the beginning to do it for 2 or 3 months to see what. I would say to track it all the time. That's up to the individual because it can become a little bit more of it can become an addiction to people, like a control thing. So what I would say is I would track it at the beginning. If anyone's trying to look at the track the cycle, Clue, CLU, Kindara on natural cycles as well they're very, very useful to kind of get
we'll
a better
stick the links
understanding.
below for everybody as well. So we'll so you can all check it out.
Yeah, no, they're definitely useful to kind of understand it, and then you'll understand. Do it for a few months, you'll spot a trend, and you'll be able to understand it. Like on my check-in sheet with my clients, it's kind of like, what week are you on? And then I'll be able to see, right, well, then I'm expecting, I can spot a trend after the first month of kind of like, right, this is when your appetite's going to go up, your energy's going to go down. So it's having different methods for them to kind of get through that kind of couple of weeks. And I know that the clients that potentially need that little bit more armor in the shoulder when they're a little bit more lower in mood are the ones that would check in a little bit more during that week. And then these clients are just run the world and kind of are fine. But generally, and it depends if they're perimenopausal, well, that's a bit different kettle of fish. If they're pregnant, like I've got pregnant clients at the minute as well, that's a very different kettle of fish. And then it's kind of like PCOS and endometriosis. And yeah, there's a lot of different kind of elements to it. And it's kind of figuring out what's normal for you because you might not have a 28-day cycle.
Yeah.
I've got clients with PCOS who, when they came to me, they had 50-day cycles. And I'm kind of like, that seems very, very long. So we've actually got it down to probably about 35 through managing stress, managing nutrition, doing a little bit of tweaks with the supplementation, and they've brought it down to 35. So they're looking to potentially have kids in the next 2 months, sorry, 2 years. So they're in a better position to do that. If it's a 50-day cycle, it's a very long time. Like that's nearly every 2 months. So there are elements you can tweak and change, but it's checking in. You can get your hormone screen with your doctor. It's like an NCT or an MOT up north. That you can kind of get your hormone screened. It's generally like just a normal blood test, like your blood test, but you're just asking for different things. You can spot that as well. I would recommend everyone that's kind of to do that every year, twice a year, maybe, particularly if you're going through, you feel you're at perimenopausal age.
I think it's very important that women do potentially looking to get their hormone screen, because I have had clients, I've had friends that are still going to the gym, still maintaining their active lifestyle, and then they're pushing themselves harder because they're not seeing the results. So it's not because they're not mostly tracking their food, it's because their hormones are playing up all devil's advocate with them. And I have found from some conversations that when they go to the doctors will think it's one, thyroid problem, or two, they just give you antidepressants to suppress your hormones and the moods. And it's really infuriating for females to hear that from other medical professions whenever there's other ways and other places out there that can give you information. Like I keep pointing clients to audiobooks that I've listened to on the menopause. Davina McCall's done a book on menopause. I know we're deviating a bit here, but to look into it and take it seriously and start talking about it openly amongst themselves so they can understand, oh, I haven't tried that.
Yeah.
On that note, whenever you have your clients tracking their period, do you find them talking amongst each other? Do you find them having a better relationship with their partners or their spouses because they're able to understand their bodies, and their husbands or partners or friends, whatever, can understand them as well?
I would say people with menstrual cycles and women probably talk about things a lot more than lads. So they probably talk to their friends a lot more and saying, particularly those going through perimenopause, I'm like, I feel like I'm losing my mind. Can be one of the big symptoms. It's like that brain fog. So they end up talking to their friends. They're kind of like, oh, I thought this was only me. So have that support from their friends, which I think is really, really important. If their partner is male, they may not understand it, may not want to understand it. So they can feel a little bit lost and not feel support on that side of things. So generally, I try to support them as best I can. They'll have some conversations with their partners around things, and then they'll generally kind of have a chat with their friends and stuff, and kind of go that way. And kind of they'll share their stories sometimes. Like I've had clients on the podcast and stuff, and they've kind of shared their stories around learning around the menstrual cycle and how it's changed their confidence. They feel that they were losing their minds and stuff, and kind of like, no, this is completely normal for you. It's just the big thing is acceptance. And like I know you're talking about the bit that you said there a little while ago. The system is the issue. So like it's been a patriarchal society for a very, very long time. It's been a fat phobic society for a very, very long time, and probably still is, unfortunately. So when someone goes in and they're like they want to get pregnant, the first thing that you hear a doctor say is you're going to need to lose weight. Now that's not helpful. That's not helpful. That's not fault of the doctor at all.
I
The
think
issue is the system.
there is elements to that for like IVF treatment. I know obviously there's certain things that you have to go through medical procedures, that some weight loss is recommended, but there's people out there who are different sizes, different shapes, who get pregnant every day, and there's people who are healthy, who don't smoke, don't drink, and can't get pregnant. So it's infuriating.
Yeah. No, I've had clients who have gone through the IVF journey, and I've had clients who have been told they're never going to have a baby, and then one of my clients was told she's never going to have a baby, and she had no cycle for 10 years, and she didn't have, like, just through over exertion, stress, not eating enough. So we had to work bloody hard to get that cycle back. And then I would say in a year after she got her cycle back, she gave birth to twins.
Wow. It's amazing.
Boys, girls, what it?
2 lads, I think.
Oh, congratulations to whoever that is on your team.
So, yeah.
That's amazing. It is true. You said at the very start of this podcast that as soon as you stop caring about what other people think about you and just focus on you, you can achieve a lot more, because you're not taking on other people's stresses.
It's hard. One sentence. I went to counseling when I was at my lowest point, and my counselor she used to compete, actually.
Bodybuilding?
So, yeah.
All right.
So she was very no nonsense. And one of the sentences she said to me that would always stick with me was, are you that full of your own self-importance that you care what other people think? Or is that you care that everyone else is going to think of what you do on a daily basis? I'm kind of like, holy shit, that is blunt, but it's point. Are you full of your own self-importance?
I like that.
Yeah. So when you say it, sometimes I'm wary to say it to clients. Are kind of like, you need to be able to hear that. Sometimes it can be like coming as a prickish "see you next Tuesday" comment.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like, well, are you full of your own self-importance that you think that everyone is in that gym thinking of what you're doing in that moment in time?
Yeah.
No one gives a flying shit what you're doing on a daily basis.
Exactly. I keep trying to tell people this, he's looking at me. Nobody's looking at you. Nobody cares.
He might be getting a creep on, but he's not doing it.
Even if anyone was looking at you, I know from personal experience, I look at other people in the gym. I'm looking to see A, what they're doing, or B, going,
I could do that.
Shit. And it's kind of like more inspiration rather than seriously, what are they wearing?
Yeah, or else they could still having a creep.
Well, yeah, that's different for blokes. Women get away with a lot more, sort of.
Or a lot, yeah, but
all
like,
the time.
But it's like, but they could be, because I always find that when I first started going to the gym, I was late enough to going into the gym. They had this belief system that the bigger people, or the kind of like the muscly bodybuilder types, would be the dickheads.
Yeah,
they are actually the friendliest.
Yeah,
because there's something that's part of their life on a daily routine. But they're also like, if they see that you're not doing something correct, they'll approach you in a nice way and kind of saying, do you mind if I kind of, they'll ask for permission first. I won't force their opinion on it, but they're like, do you mind if I just kind of say, like, just drive the shoulder blade down, or just watch your lower back if you're doing an RDL or whatever it may be. I find that's the case. And I think a lot of people can think that because they're in the gym, they think they're better than people. It's like, no, they've just done more hours and done more reps on things. And they're probably in the know a lot more than the people who are commenting elsewhere. Like, if people are really making comments on you in the gym, it really says a lot more about that individual. It's not really saying much about you. It's saying that person might hurt, and hurt people. yeah, hack squat's an awkward position in the best times, and squats you see it all the time as well. Like I would be cautious enough with squats myself. Of like I
Yeah,
would no, I'd normally I'd either have the barriers up, or else I would get someone to spot me. Because I
yeah,
still train in the gym I used to train out of. So like one or two of the PTs are there. So I like, if they're not with the client, I call them over and just kind of give us a spot or whatever, or else I ask a complete stranger.
yeah. It's always good to ask. If they say no, just go on somebody else. Excuse me, just you couldn't cover 2 seconds because we spot. Most people will say, yeah, no problem.
Yeah,
It's your own safety. Your health
yeah,
is your wealth.
big time. Yeah,
That's really
hope
the tagline, do we?
Uh, get a t-shirt, health is wealth.
that.
So before we conclude today, I always ask, or Dave and I always ask, sorry, the guest to give 3 points of advice to our listeners on the topic that they're talking about. So if you've got any 3 points that you'd like to share with our viewers on the menstrual cycle, we'll love to hear them.
So the first one would be to track the cycle.
Track the cycle, right?
Track
And
the
we can do
cycle.
that through
Clue,
Clue,
Kindara,
Kinder.
or Natural Cycles is the other one. It's not an app, but I think there is an app, but it's generally a thermometer that you kind of use to check when you're ovulating. So
We have the wee sticks that you pee on up here. I don't know if you have them down there.
I've no idea.
Like the little, like the little
Same here. I haven't had you myself.
Actually, there. It's like a little pH stick. Tells you where
Okay,
you
yeah,
are.
yeah. Okay.
And they're not very sexy, but it's a lot better than shoving more stuff up there. But so tracking and also pen and paper.
Yeah, old school
Mental
pen and paper can work as well. It's just kind of having some sort of mechanism. Do that for like 2, 3, 4, 5 months and see you'll spot a trend. Second one is, I would say that you need to probably understand when you probably need that little bit more calories
Yeah.
in order to eat, or to kind of get you through that kind of stage of your cycle. And when you start to accept that you're going to maybe be a little bit weaker, a little bit more stronger at different stages, that could be, and you'll need more food to get through those cravings. So cravings are happening because your body's looking for food. So not giving your body food is asking for trouble. And
We're
the
looking for
third
good
one,
food.
yeah, food, whole grain carbs, proteins. Your body's actually looking for more fat at that stage as well. So your body becomes a little bit more fat adaptive at that stage. So you're looking for a little bit more fats. So like omegas, salmons, oily fish, those kind of things. And the third one that I haven't spoken about is compare your like week with your like week. Well, what does that mean? It means if you are weighing yourself, which not everyone has to do, compare your like week of your cycle to your like week of your cycle the next month. So if you're weighing in May and you weigh in on your week of your cycle in May, compare it to your week of your cycle in June. So week 2, week 3, week 3, week 4, week 4. Why? Because the hormones at every week is completely different. You're going to be a little bit more bloated at different stages. So you're going to be carrying a little bit more water. I've had clients go 15 pounds on the time of their month. Some people can have digestive issues and can get a little bit more constipated at certain times of the month, which is a sign that you're not eating enough fiber, not drinking enough water, because the only way for you to get rid of your old cycle is to poo it out. So if you're not getting enough of that, well, then it's going to cause digestive issues. So compare your like week with your like week. You'll be able to spot it in your tracker. So week 1 to week 1, week 2 to week 2, week 3 to week 3. And you'll be able to say, and I always say it to clients, it's funny when you get clients to do, and you're kind of like, when you're going through the check and you're kind of like, oh, I didn't see any progress this week. It's like, well, did you look back 4 weeks ago on your cycle and see where you were at? Well, you're down 4 centimeters and you're down about a pound compared to this time last month. And they're kind of like, oh my God, I can't believe it. So like it can change from an empowering thing or a shaming thing to an empowering thing quite quickly when you kind of bring it that way. So like week with like week is probably one of the gold standard things that I kind of recommend to clients. But it helps when you track your cycle, you understand that a little bit more. So tracking cycles number 1, and then the like week with like week will be one of the things I would bring in.
I'm going to use that like for like week, even on myself.
This is very interesting, and I genuinely do hope that there's fellas listening to this as well, because the insight this here, some of the stuff I never knew, and it's very, very interesting.
See, we're not just pretty faces. We're a whole bunch of complicated awesomeness.
Exactly. Exactly. Our health is our wealth as well.
Pardon?
Our health is our wealth as well.
There we go. That's a logo now.
I gotta go change all the stuff now.
Exactly.
Thanks.
you were going to your class on your health. Well,
Exactly. Yeah, just annoy everyone today.
Well, Shane, like we are so thankful to you coming on today.
yes, thank you very
Our
much.
viewers are going to be blown away by the information. I know we've gone off on wee tangents, but I think it's important that people know that all this stuff's all interconnected. That's why we went off and we chats and stuff like that there, and we talked about men's health as well, and asthma. It's just been very interesting, very awesome, and it's definitely perked me up because I had a really bad day yesterday. So
and anybody wants to get in contact with you, we'll put your links all down below. And for any information, we'll also put links down below for all the stuff you've said about as well, that they can track everything so they can. And say it was very interesting. I thoroughly enjoyed that. There's a lot of stuff I learned. You know, I can carry forward to clients stuff as well. So thank you very much, and keep
No worries. Thank you so
here.
much for thank you guys so much for having me. It's kind of nice to have like obviously the kind of like the sciencey education part, but also have like a chat as well.
Yes.
It's kind of nice to have those because sometimes it can be a little bit too much.
Yeah.
It's nice to have that kind of like a proper chat with people as well. So thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you. And all the best with your best man speech for your brother's wedding in 2 months time.
Oh Christ, don't remind me.
Brandon.
You will be fine, absolutely fine. You used to do this public speaking, it's so we go.
Yes, just keep up what you're doing. You're an inspiration to myself, Elaine, and said for everybody else all over. You know, it's amazing what you're doing, and keep it going.
Thank you, and best of luck in your show.
Indeed.
Well, thanks so much for having me, guys.
Thank you. Take care. See you soon.